Hello, welcome back. I'm going to try and tie this up in the next two videos. This last bit of the code deals with notifying the user that they won or they lost that hand, and then notifying the opponent that they won or lost, and also moving the deck onto the next card, cycling through to the next card for both the client and the host, regardless of whether it was the client who pressed the button or the host that pressed the button. Okay, so I'm going to start off by kind of running from this bit of the code and just doing something that we wouldn't do in an actual game, but I'm going to kind of print a value so I can see that something is working. So I'm going to say you win there, and this is just going to log something to the screen. Print string you lose. Let's copy that and paste it down there. So if I win, it's true. If I lose, it's false. That's not right, is it? Because my position is set to be greater than, but in actual fact my position, I would win if I was less than. So that would be like that. So by being in a higher position, it would be a lower number. So we do the same with this. True, you won. And false, you lose. Right, so I can do a little bit of testing here and just compile and save. But before I do that, we need to do something in the player controller. I failed to set this to reliable, so although you would have seen me when you press play in your games, you may have not seen anything on the client because replicator is not set to reliable. So I lost that one. Did I lose? Yeah, because I got 2,618 and he's got 3,013. So I won the client 2-1. He lost that one because that's 2 million. Server would win. Position 7, I should win. I should lose. So the kind of logic is there. Seems to be working. It doesn't cycle the cards, so I'm always winning. So yeah, okay. So kind of testing that there. And so generally speaking, our way of using the player HUD to kind of target the authority and remote this kind of passing this event off. We know that who it was who clicked the button, and then when we run this, we kind of say, well, it was the client who ran it, so check this value. And if it was the kind of host, we check that value there. Right, so a little bit of testing taken care of there. I'm going to leave this in for now. What we need to add here is some more of the gameplay. We want to just finish this off by adding we want to move the index onto the next card effectively. So we're going to do that by we can do that quite simply by adding 1 to the index, but there are some issues with that. So I would need to add one to the index and check to see whether or not I've reached the last card. But I will add one to my index and one to the client's index. Now it seems quite, I mean, we could just do something like this. We could say custom event, and we're going to update index 1. It's a bit zoomed out there. This would be, right, so this is going to run on my server. Okay. And what we would do is say, run off there, we're just going to say plus plus. I'm going to increment an int. I'm going to take the index 1, plug that in there, and we're going to set index 1 there. So we're taking the value of index 1, adding 1 to it, which is what this plus plus does, adds 1 to a specific value. And we can call that. Okay, and we'll do the same here. We'll go custom event, and we'll call this update index 2. This one is going to be set to multicast, right? And I'm going to make it reliable. And I need to explain why, don't I? So, multicast, what do you do? Replicates this event from the server to everyone else. Server executes the event locally, so the server also executes the event locally too. And you only call this from the server. Running on the server, this event from net owning client to server. And then run on owning client replicates this event from the server to the owning client. So multicast will run on the server and run on the client, which is kind of, yeah, that would be really nice. So why don't I set this one to multicast, because kind of that would be cool, wouldn't it? Because I could then just not worry about it. I could just add the index for both the client and the server. Whoever clicks the button, well, unfortunately, well, not unfortunately so much, it's more of a case of we wouldn't want the client deciding what his index number was, because the client could say, well, actually I'm holding several cards that can't be beaten, so anytime I can just play the top trump card, you know, and whenever it's my go, I'll set my card to be, playable, the first position sky. So whatever index number that was, I'll always change my index. So I'm modifying my client. Now, if that were to happen, we'd always be the host, and the host should be kind of in charge of the client. We want the host to say, right, wait a minute, this is what your number should be. I know because I've got a reference to your deck here. I can see what you should have in your deck. So if you're telling me you're on index 2, then that should tally with what I see here, which is a replicated version of what your index should be. Okay, so this is getting a bit complicated. So the way that this multiplayer will have to work, or multiplayer games in work in general, is that we get the server to do any of the important logic, like incrementing to the next card in the deck. Okay, so the client can't say, right, well, I'm on this index, disregard what you think your index I'm on, this is the index I'm on. Well, the server's in charge. Okay, we want the server to make the decision, and this is what we're going to do. So we're going to do the same here though. We're going to say we're going to ++ increment the integer. I'm going to take index 2, and we're going to set index 2, like so. Okay, we've got some of the logic that can go in there just to see that we're not at the end of the deck, but we'll deal with that once we've sorted out this multiplayer stuff. So what we're going to do is we're going to tell we're going to basically figure out a way of running, because we still need our client, when he wins, he's going to increment his index, but he also needs to increment the index he needs to inform the server that he must also increment his index. So yeah, we need to jump out of this branch. We need to come out of here. We need to elevate the privileges of our client, to kind of, this branch restricts him from doing anything that would affect this guy here. So we need to kind of break him out and say, look, send a message to the server so the server knows that he has to run this instruction here to update the index. And to do that, we are going to build another interface. So come back into your main launching window, and we're going to blueprint interface, and I am going to send this interface to, I could send it to the player controller, I think. However, I think I tried that and I had some issues, and I never went back to just see if I'd resolved them. But so I'm going to just stick with, I'm going to use the pawn as my replicate, because let's have a look. So first of all, we're going to have to create a pawn as well. So we want to classes, and we just want, it's an empty pawn that we want. So it says a pawn is the base class of all actors that can be possessed by players or AI. They are the physical representation of players and creatures in levels. So a pawn derives from a player controller. Okay, let's pull him in. Oh, actually, going to drop him in there, aren't we? So we're going to then, once he's in the level, we are going to right click, no, actually go to details and blueprint add script for him. Okay, and we'll leave him as pawn blueprint. He wants to go to content, I'm going to create him there. Okay, so we have now a new blueprint graph for a pawn, and we do need the event begin play. So just kind of guide you to a couple of through a few things here. So the pawn is also contains a player controller, and we kind of associate our player controller with that pawn. So a player controller is an actor responsible for controlling a pawn used player. It's also in network games, the player controller exists on the server for every player controlled pawn. Okay, and also on the controlling client's machine. They do not exist on a client's machine for pawns controlled by remote players. So the client can't see the server's pawn or any other pawn, but the server will get get all the pawns. You'll know where they all are. Okay, so there's some replication involved. So, right, in this begin play, I am going to cast to my game state, because what I want to do, cast to my game state, as the game state. Okay, get the game state. Okay, so I'm then going to take, I'm going to promote this to a variable. Okay, so I'm effectively just taking the game state and saying, you know, this is the game state. I'm not using the default game state, I'm using the my game state, you know, my own custom game state. I'm going to change that to my game state, like so, and that just means I've got again a reference, a variable that I can drag and drop and use now. Okay, and I need to use that down here. So I've got my pawn, I've got this kind of game state reference here. Let's just say that I haven't finished creating my pawn interface, have I? So let's just jump back into my pawn interface. I'm going to create a new function, and this function is actually just an empty function that I don't need to pass anything through. So I'm just going to call this one player1 index. So this is going to call a function, player1 index. I'm also going to create another function, and this one will be called player2, and compile and save. Okay, that's all I need in there. So I've got a function now which I can implement. If I implement the interface, class settings, add, and this was the pawn interface. Compile, right click, event, player1, add event, player1 index, and that's the interface iconography there. Stolen that word. Okay, and what I'm going to do is update the index on the player controller in the game state. Sorry, not the player controller, in the game state. So this one, update index, is something I want to call, and I'm not going to call it directly. So that's not, you know, I don't want to just straight out call it. I'm going to have to do some kind of, I'm going to have to flip this and create a new function, custom event, sorry, new event, and I'm going to call update index 1, and that is going to run on the server. Okay, because I'm the client and I want to run something on the server. Set that to run on server, reliable. So what we do is we call that from here, update index 1 server, there, I'm calling that function. Then from this function I'm going to call a new function, and this is the update, custom function, a custom event. This is going to be called update index, and this one will be executed on the client. So this one will be a multicast event and reliable. So we call update index 1 client. I can rename that and save. Okay, and then finally, if I pull from my game state, we are going to update index 1, and you can see there it's in my functions. This is target is my game state because I'm pulling from my game state, which is why I cast to it earlier, and then I can just call that from there. So I'm the client. I call this function now in the game state. I'm going to call a function on the pawn blueprint that executes this function on the server. The server executes a function that executes something on the client, and the client calls the update index. So we also need another, we'll need to implement the other function. So the event player 2 index, and we're going to do the same again, but in reverse. So we've got a custom event here called update index to, and that is going to run on server. Set that to run on server. Custom event update index to client. Okay, so we have update index to server, update index to client, and finally we got the update index to, oh sorry, we have to take the game state, update index 2. Compile, save. So we've implemented that interface. Basically that just runs a function that elevates, runs on server, runs on client, runs on server, runs on both, multicast, reliable. Compile, save. Okay. So obviously running on the pawn blueprint, which exists only on the client. Okay. So we'll go back into my game state now. And on the client, so we don't need to use the interface if we are the server. We can just call, so I won, so I'm going to call both of these, update index 1, and I'm also going to need to update index 2. Okay. Because that is going to run, I'm the authority. I can update my own index, and I can update the client's because he will multicast, meaning that he will send it to an update to the server and the client. And I can do the same if I lose. I'm just going to copy that. I just want to do the same again there. Okay, now here I'm in a different situation. I need to call my interface. So I call the update, what's it called? Pawn interface, event player, player 1 index message, and I can also call directly the, no, I think I'm just going to stick with the message call. to index message. We can test this now. We'll just copy that and paste that. Like this. Compile, save. Oh, our target's missing. So we need a reference to our pawn. So if we get player pawn like that. Okay, let me do the same again. Get player pawn. Compile, save. So test this out now. So as the server, I should be able to click a button, and it didn't work. Okay, you win. Okay, so what haven't I done? Taking index 1. Could be. Oh, so the index is changing. The index is changing. But these functions here are when we update the user interface. So we only ever actually update the user interface one time, and then we go through this code here, and the user interface doesn't get updated again. This bit of the code, so when the button's clicked, this is where the code starts. Kind of this bit's already been executed during the event begin play, and it's only this bit of the code that remains sort of active in this blueprint from that point onwards. So we need to now update the user interface. Okay, so that will happen again with the widget interface. So we'll save this here and add one more video.